Welcome to the 5 tips and tricks for careers in athletics. I am your host, Dr. Maury Masovitz, with my favorite co-host of all times, Jen Albanese. Welcome, Jen.
Hey, Maury. We're back. So excited.
I know. What a week.
I know. I'm glad you added in the doctor. Make sure we're always including that in your intro.
It's like a tagline from my mother.
Hey, Mom, we love you.
Hey, shout out to Mama Masovitz. Well, actually, Hotchkiss, but we won't get that complicated.
Oh, so we're back. So what's been going on, Maury?
Big week, big guests coming up. I'm excited about our guests coming up. Just awesome guys. So that's exciting.
I know. I can't wait to catch up. It's going to be so good to talk with Chris. I'm so excited.
I don't know. I've been thinking about, I'm a fan of podcasts, not just doing our own, but listening. And I was listening to Conan O'Brien, shout out. And he was saying this whole rant. It was an old episode about how he doesn't like portals, about they use the idea of in the multiverse of Marvel, that he just doesn't think people should jump through portals. And recently up in our area, they had what everyone was calling a solar eclipse. I guess that's what it's called. And and it made me think, I don't like solar eclipses. I can, if Conan O'Brien doesn't like portals, I do not like solar eclipses.
Why? Why don't you like them?
Because it was made into the biggest deal that we're gonna go and it's gonna get dark, which I can do by closing my eyes, and we all had to stop everything we were doing. And as you know, I get kind of concentrated in the work that I'm doing. And I just thought, and I know that this is not probably your opinion because you did a whole party, which I had to attend.
I'm complete opposite of this. I am all for the solar eclipse. I'm all for any sort of party, but especially a theme party. Solar eclipse, it was so cool. Now, granted, again, like I said, I like the party theme, and I went all out. We had our eclipse gum, and we had our starburst and our sun chips and the works, but it was so cool. The experience was so cool how it got, and where we are in our area, we got the total solar eclipse. So it went completely dark in the middle of the afternoon. And like Maury said, we had a party, we had the whole family
We're
here.
Chasing our kids to make sure they wear glasses and telling them not to look at the sun without having the glasses on.
Well, they scared you that your kids were going to have permanent eye damage and they wouldn't be able to see for the rest of their life.
Because of the eclipse, they're looking up in the sky, and you're trying to tell a 3-year-old, you need to look through these glasses, but you need to look at this dark spot that you can't see. And then, people are asking, has it happened yet? Because there's fall, there's clouds and fog. And I'm just I just want to tell my kids, close your eyes. Oh, it's here. It's done.
Well, no, again, obviously Maury and I are related, and our families were together for this eclipse. And my mother and our mother-in-law were literally narrating the entire eclipse.
That was the other thing.
And I do think my entire neighborhood heard it. It was so loud, and maybe we'll put it up on our socials, the video of it, but it was so loud, and they were yelling and screaming, and that was part of the entertainment. So
I will say that was somewhat entertaining while you all were kind of saying how Eeyore-ish me and my father-in-law were about the whole situation, as we questioned, can you see it? What are we doing here? Listening to the song Total Eclipse is the Heart while you're eating a Starburst. We
were right on theme.
I appreciate the party, but I don't know if I need the eclipse in my life.
Well, it was so much fun, and I loved it. And again, you're not going to see it for another, 80 years or something. So it was a very good moment. It was
there.
You
cool. Go.
I was so glad to share it with you, Maury.
I did appreciate the company more than the actual eclipse. So we'll go with that.
All right. Well, it was a good time. But all right. Well, I think we should get to our guest. So we are going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back with Chris Fuller.
See you when we get back. If you're enjoying this podcast, please follow us on your favorite podcast streaming service. The 5 Tips and Tricks podcast is a part of Athletic Career Consulting, a group focused on educating and guiding high school and college students looking towards careers in athletics. find out more, go to our website at www.athcareer.com. That's ATHCAREER.
Okay, everybody, welcome back from break. And we have an incredible guest today. Maury, let's get to the bio.
So just to start off, today's guest is a veteran specialist in athletic external operations, as well as a college administrator with over 30 years of experience. He graduated from Shepard College and earned a master's degree in sports and fitness management from West Virginia. Following with West Virginia, he began his career as an associate sports marketing director at UNC. He went on to work at notable athletic organizations such as ACC Properties, Gun Sports Marketing, and the Cleveland Cavaliers. His resume includes multiple higher education institutions, serving as the deputy athletic director. While working in college settings, he was involved in high-profile coaching searches, negotiating large contracts, and even helped develop an on-campus broadcast network and studio. I could go on and on and on with the many amazing things this gentleman has done, but let me introduce Mr. Chris Fuller.
Yay!
Woo!
Hi, Chris.
I guess that was better than just saying, let me introduce our over-the-hill guest, Chris Fuller.
No!
Stop it. Stop.
It's great to see both of you guys and to see what you guys are doing. You are among the people I miss in Syracuse. So.
Oh, well, we miss you.
We miss you too, Chris.
We're so excited to do this and get to chat with you and catch up because, you know, when you go different places, you don't get to stay in touch as much as you'd like to. So this is awesome.
And definitely when we started this, one of the top people on our list, we both said we have to have Chris Fuller.
Absolutely.
Well, let's hope you still feel that way at the end.
Well,
like I said, I can always edit it.
Well, we know it'll be good stories, good conversation. It'll be very entertaining. So yeah, we're excited. So the podcast is 5 tips and tricks about athletics. So I think we'll start it off. Tell us your first tip.
Yeah, for me, Jen, the first one's easy for me because it's always been the people. I think when you start your career, the most important decision you're going to make is who you're going to work with and around. It's not the place. It's not the salary. It's not the title. It's who am I going to be spending my days with? Are they going to take an interest in my career? Am I going to have a mentor? Are they going to help me with a growth plan? So to me, it's always, and then later in your career, when you move up a little bit, it's about the people, because the team you build, you'll either succeed or fail based on the team you build. It won't be, nobody does it by themselves. So for me, that's been number one from the beginning for me is who I choose to associate with in a work environment. And then how can I bring value to the people that are on my team and have us all sort of benefit and grow together. So the first one's easy for me. It's the people but you see people too often. You see people often, especially early, make this say, well, that's a cool property. I want to work here. I'm a fan of this place.
Right.
I want to be in the pros. I want to, and they don't know. You guys know because you're in the space every day. You know what the job really is. Well, when you're first getting in, you don't. You just think it's glamorous, right? So even though it sounds simple, it's a rule that people don't always follow.
So for the young people listening to this, or maybe even those people that are trying to get into it, how do you kind of vet out the people that you're going to work for?
Yeah, look, a lot of it comes down to your gut instinct. When you're sitting down, when you're interviewing for a job, you're also interviewing them, right? And, I think you can usually get a pretty good vibe if you're sitting there talking to somebody and they're looking at their watch, or they're not listening to your response. They're waiting for what they're going to say next. you can tell if somebody is sort of, what can you do for me versus what can we do for each other. But I also think you need to do your homework. If you do your homework on the front side, especially in sports, it's not very difficult to find out who the transactional people are versus the people who will invest in their staff.
And then from the other side, from like sitting in the chair, because you've done so many searches, not to put your age in there, but you've been on high profile searches, you've been on, just hiring the intern. Like, what does that look for you to start saying, okay, I want to add this person to my team?
For me, it always starts with values. I want to know that it's someone I can trust. I want to know it's somebody who, is willing to make mistakes, but then will own them and not repeat them. But it starts with values. I think sometimes we get too caught up and we talk ourselves into how important specialization is and how important our unique areas are. Right, the reality is if you look for the right values, we can teach pretty much all of the skills in our space, right? And you find out really fast if somebody's not, look, the biggest turnoff of all time is the person who says, well, that's not part of my job, right?
Right.
Guess what?
Everything is.
If I'm hiring you into an entry-level position in athletics, it's part of your job.
Well, the honest part of it is like, that's how you learn. I mean, we've all said it before, like we've laughed, you and I have talked about it, setting up the tent or going to like go on and throw t-shirts or whatever. That's when you find all the good stuff.
I mean, I'm still rolling the t-shirt. Like I'm still helping out rolling the t-shirts because you have to be willing to do it all. So,
but I think that engenders so much trust and loyalty from the people you're working with. I think when the people you work with know that you won't ask them to do something you won't do,
100%.
That becomes the foundation of a great team.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, good start. What do we got for your second tip?
My second one is manage in all directions. And what I mean by that, you guys know a little bit of my background. I mean, I paid my way through college as a Teamster loading liquor trucks. So I've seen some places and some folks and I wouldn't have got through college without that. But when I say manage in all directions, a lot of times you run into people that only manage up. They're only managing to their boss, to their boss's boss, to somebody who they perceive has the power to help them advance, right? I'm a huge believer in managing all directions and working at it. So moving around and making sure that people at all levels of the organization see you and know you're approachable and know you're accessible and aren't freaked out by a title. Right. And you got to consciously break through that barrier because people are freaked out by titles and especially places that have a lot of hierarchy like that. So you got to go to where they are. Right. You got to, find ways to really humanize yourself across all levels of an organization. And what you'll find when you do that is frequently when you're managing either horizontally or managing down, those are the people that can more directly impact your success or failure than when you're spending all your time trying to manage up.
Yeah. Anyone that thinks that they're going to just dictate to everybody and it's going to work. And like, you see those people so frequently, they don't usually survive at that institution. They're going to move on and try and see why it didn't work. I feel like, I don't know. That's just my experience.
It's all about collaboration. Like if you're not going to be willing to collaborate above or below, like it's never going to be successful.
I've seen it. I saw it recently with somebody who had been elevated to a really senior position for the first time. and came in thinking this is what it is now. I'm sort of in the penthouse and I don't need to bother with any of the blocking and tackling anymore. And it didn't last long. It was over really quickly. And you just, I think as you mature in your career, man, I can't succeed with people that are following me because they have to.
Right.
I can only succeed with people that will walk with me because they want to.
Chris, what's funny? I feel like I watched you at the time that we kind of were in the same space together. Actually, with the middle management people that were kind of starting those positions, you were so pivotal, I feel like, in working with them to help like develop that. Because I think the first thing everyone feels like is they have to present themselves like they know it all or they're not going to be respected. And I feel like that's the biggest mistake. I feel like I made that mistake probably early in my career. And definitely talking with you over time and saying, hey, it's about the people, it's about the connections that make all the difference, really made a lot for me. But I also saw you do it with other people.
I appreciate you saying that more because look, a lot of time we get busy, you get pulled, and you mean to do it, and then the day goes by and you haven't done as much of it as you like. And there's always, you look back with some regrets on people you think you could have influenced more than you did. But, one of the things that was a huge challenge for me in the back half of my career, the last, 15 plus years or so, I didn't like being removed from the work because being removed from the work removed me from the people. And then I didn't have as good a pulse or instinct on what was really happening, how people were doing and how they felt about the organization, where their morale was and where were we falling short. And the reality is the farther you get away from the work, the harder it is to stay connected, especially if you don't have people in the organization that'll come into your office and be comfortable coming into your office and saying, hey man, I just want you to know, I think we got a little bit of an issue here and you could really make a difference if you stick your head in. So, that's a big transition when you move away from the front line.
Right.
Yeah. Being in tune with what the employees are going through and understanding that, I feel like that's so important. I try to do that so much, and that's something that I'm always learning and trying to be a part of, because that's the only way you can make an impact. That's the only way you can make things better, is understanding where their challenges are. So that's so important.
And you guys know this because you've advanced too. As you move up in leadership, it can be isolating. Right?
Yeah.
You all of a sudden you have to have the self-awareness to know, I just don't know. I honestly don't know what is really going on at the grassroots level. Yeah. And so then that's where you try to lean into relationships you've built with folks that'll come and talk to you and be open with you. You really get isolated.
I mean, not that Jen and I are that far up the ladder. No,
yeah, we're not.
But
I mean,
we've actually had the conversation. It goes back to your first, tip is, we feel like, and I know I have some people around me that will say like, hey, this is the honest feedback I have for you, and being willing to take that. It's such a difference in probably what the outcome of something's going to be.
Yeah,
comparatively.
I always say I'm not the yes person. Like, I'm not just going to sit there and yes you to death and tell you everything is great and agree with everything you're going to say. That's not why you hired me. That's not why I'm here. So you have to be honest in all areas, I think. So.
Okay. On to what we got, a third one now?
Yes.
Or number 3?
We're on 3.
Thank you for keeping me on track, Jen.
I got you.
This one is a little bit more specific to the external space because it's been, I think you guys know, going all the way back to my start at North Carolina, I've had a lot of background in the multimedia space, the MMR space, television, broadcast negotiation, apparel negotiation, all that stuff. So the third one for me is negotiate hard, partner harder. And the reason I say that is because it's crazy to me that I still see this in the year 2024. I see so many people in senior level positions, even in AD positions, that do not understand their business agreements. They don't understand how they work. They don't understand the risk that the business partner is taking. Their focus is just get the most money they can get. And it's so naive. And I thought we would have gotten past this as an industry a long time ago. Now, I think you guys know I'm going to negotiate hard. I'm going to get the best deal I can for my institution.
Right.
And I take pride in that. But along the way, I'm going to understand what's going to make that deal work for my partner. And I'm going to try to bring everybody in the athletic department into a place of understanding that it isn't us and them, it's us. And, I've been on the side where I was responsible for the P&L too. And I think that's where some of the gap is. I think we have a lot of people in senior external roles and or athletic director roles that were, that have never been responsible for P&L.
Yeah, it's interesting because if it doesn't work on both sides, it probably isn't going to work at all, because it just, and how, for me being in the kind of, and Jen's, I think, in the same situation, in the operator role of, working with these people and coordinating, really the relationship part makes the complete difference. And I think you've said it over and over again. It's, once you get that contract off the ground, you have to have a viable relationship.
Yeah. If there's no relationship, it doesn't work.
I celebrated a couple of years ago a deal that I negotiated in Tennessee in 2006. There was a 15-year agreement with then Host, which became IMG, which is now Learfield, in that time span. But when we announced the deal, it was a 10-year, $84 million deal. And the immediate reaction in the industry was, holy cow, there's no way they can make that profitable. And with the caveat that Fuller fleeced them, right? That this is, but they didn't know how much work we had done underneath the hood to make sure we were in position. And we, not only were we profitable the first year, that deal was profitable every year for 15 years, and is now going beyond that, which I would have never bet, because the need for cash flow on the athletic department side is so insane that people act irrationally, and the grass is always greener. But that deal, like I said, that I'm proud of the fact that deal, extended to 15 years, over 133 million, and that partner was profitable every single year of that deal, and still is today. So
that's incredible. That is incredible.
And I mean, it's about coming back to the table, because if you can't, if you're going out of deals all the time, it's probably not going to be in anyone's favor to start setting these things up and then jumping out a few years after that is not going to be good for them, good for, the school.
Well, and you think about your obligations to what your brand is too, and you don't stop and think about how your MMR partner affects your brand every day, but they do. And if they start, cutting corners on your radio network or your shows or your broadcasts, then all of a sudden it's having
they're the frontward facing of a lot of your brand. I mean, people don't realize how forward facing they are until you work in the industry. And, it's just so crazy that, one decision they make can completely change how you're perceived.
Yeah, so that one's been sort of on my hit list seemingly for years, to negotiate hard, but partner harder, be a good partner. Don't take it. I think people also make the assumption that if you outsource something, the work goes away. It doesn't go away. It just changes, right?
100%. That is so true, Chris. Oh my gosh, so true. Yeah.
And there's work on both sides. It's not like you just all of a sudden like sign the thing and then you have no work on the collegiate side and all of a sudden your partner takes everything over. Actually, the first couple years sometimes are
it's more work
difficult
on our side.
Yeah.
because you're onboarding somebody.
Right. And to get them acclimated to what you want and how your brand is perceived and all that kind of stuff. It's just.
Well, and you guys know this too. I mean, good Lord, what would you say the percentage of people on the athletic department staff whose definition of sponsorship is we get free stuff?
Too high.
Yeah. We don't. Yeah.
Too high.
Yeah,
I'll just put it at that.
What more is that?
Too high.
Can't we just get free food?
Right.
Can't we just get free food?
As the business guy, if I give it to you for free, that doesn't help me.
Yeah.
It doesn't help any of us.
Aren't we all just getting free cars in the entire department now? What?
And free t-shirts and free giveaways and whatever else you can think of. So
that one's been a mission for me throughout my career, and I've tried to win one interaction at a time, you know?
Yeah,
no,
for sure.
And it makes a difference from someone who's seen it. So absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah. And look, I mean, you'd much rather, if you gotta manage those relationships, it's a lot better when you're all trying to work together. You all have your skin and everybody's got some skin in the game. And you've got an opportunity to get into upside. So, but it's crazy how I really don't think the industry as a whole has moved very far down that continuum.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, last regular trip before we get into to our last question. That's here.
Number four.
Number 4.
And you know, this one's a little
maybe
general.
Jen should be introducing things instead of me.
No, I got you. You're good, Maury.
This one's a little general, but it's to me, you know, it's the greatest sales skill. And I always tell folks on my team, whether you're getting commissioned or not, you're selling. We're all selling something every single day, right? So, you know, at some point, if you are and you're good at it, you might as well figure out a way to get commission for it, right?
Exactly.
But, you know, I think the number one skill to be successful in that space is listening. Whether it's a donor, a corporate partner, whether it's a head coach, if you're the administrator for a sport, all these different sort of levels and interactions that you have to have in college athletics. If you're willing to sit down and listen, invariably they will tell you what's important to them. Now, listening's like an active skill. It can't just, you know, yeah, I heard you said this, but you know, what was your body language? What kind of vibe was I picking up from your reaction to a certain thing? But, you know, if you sort of work at that craft and you're serious about not only listening with your ears, but your eyes, you know, the answers to the test are there.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
And
so true.
You know, I one of my pet phrases, you guys have heard this before, but I have a pet phrase. Sometimes you can give someone all the answers to the test and they fail anyway. Right.
Exactly.
And one of the ways that happens often, I think, is when people aren't actively listening. They're already in their head thinking about what I need to say or what I need to get off my chest or how I'm feeling about this. But if you take that time to actively listen, the folks you're dealing with are going to give you the answers. And then it's just a matter of, can you shape what they want and their goals to the goals of your department. So I'd say, you know, listening to me is number one sales skill. And to me, selling isn't just corporate sponsorship or, you know, tickets or traditional, what we think of selling. It's, you know, how you persuade your staff. It's how you make a case or an argument to your boss. It's It's when you get called in front of the chancellor's cabinet, how do you persuade them? And I think listening's the key to it.
That is so good. And I think there's so many students or interns today that don't think about that's so important.
Well, and I would tell you, Jen, I think soft skills are going to be more important, not less. Like we're entering the AI era, right? So, there's certain functions that you're going to be able to offload into that space. What's going to make you unique as a leader? What's going to make you effective in an organization are those soft skills. It's, so when you go into a meeting, can you put your phone away and be present with the people that are there? I think the level of distractions in the workplace is at an all-time high. So, the people who are able to cut through that and find enough time to focus on the really important, the main thing, and be able to communicate it. And that's hard. You guys, I've struggled with this over time. There's so many things that hit your desk in athletics. I think Steve
and then
Jobs.
Add social media to that, have your stuff that's regular, and then now just inundate you with, all the digital communication that's coming through.
How many people say, like, if you have more than 3 priorities, you don't have any. I remember, sharing with John when I first got up there, you'll do 1,000 things as an AD, but you're only going to be evaluated on 3.
Right.
And I told him what those 3 were. You're going to do 1,000, but so the key is going to be, how do you stay focused on the 3?
Yeah.
Awesome.
That's so good. That's so good. All right, Chris, one last question for you. So what do you know now that you wish you knew then? What do you know now that you wish you knew right when you started?
I thought a lot about this, and there's a lot of directions you could probably go in, because I consider myself a lifelong learner. In fact, I've probably read at least 2 books a week since the end of July when I left Charlotte, which has been awesome.
Amazing.
And I didn't start out that smart, so I'm sort of filling up. So, but
they're all sci-fi books, right? That's what the trick was.
Or running books. Running.
Yeah, I forgot.
Running books.
I've gotten to the point where I read almost no fiction. So, it's all over the place. A lot of biographies.
Yeah.
But it's one of the things for me is, I didn't realize, I went to a small school in West Virginia that was NAIA at the time that eventually became Division II. I didn't work in athletics when I was in college. I wish I had known how dependent we would become on private donations in college athletics. And I'll give you a frame of reference, because I'm not this old. So when I started at North Carolina, they had 28 sports. They have 28 sports today, maybe 29. They might have added women's lacrosse. They might have one, but it's really close.
Yeah.
You know what their budget was?
I don't even want to guess.
Yeah.
It's going to be not close to what it is now.
No.
$22 million.
Yeah.
Then think about it. This is in my professional career, right? This is not a huge window. Now, similar number of sports, maybe one more. Their budget's probably in the 150 million.
It's so crazy
range. Wow. And I think, I think at the very high P4, whatever it is today, level, you need to understand how that dependence on private donations and individual personalities is going to influence how you lead your department. It's really, and I've experienced it from a place here at Charlotte that's a G5 where it's not oppressive in the same way because we're so young. And I've experienced it in the SEC where Yeah.
It's all over the place.
Yeah. It's everywhere.
It's just everywhere.
And in between. So
Right.
I'd say that's the thing for me that I didn't see on the way in. And I made a decision. When I went to grad school, to be an academic counselor. And very quickly, I switched gears to get into the revenue generation side because that's where I saw everybody advancing. And I knew I wanted to be able to influence bigger issues. So I switched gears really quick. But how dependent we are on those individual donations and private donations aren't like corporate sponsorships. There's not a contract. There's not an agreement it's not the company's money, right?
It's a relationship.
It's a relationship and it can be volatile at times. And, you have to be able to create respectful boundaries for, how you manage that. And now, bleeding that into NIL is just even another layer.
That's what I was going to ask you next was think about how NIL falls in that. So
it's, to me, one of the things, Maury, about those individual donations is you guys know the gift agreement's not enforceable, right? So if I hire a coach that donor X doesn't like, and they have a gift agreement, they can choose not to honor it. And I have no recourse. Now, in the collective space, they have a contract. My opinion is that if the young person that they give NIL money to doesn't perform and they withhold payment, you still, whether you have a contract or not, you don't have a recourse.
Right.
You're not going to enforce it because you need that donor for the next athlete.
Next athlete. Yeah, exactly.
And it's almost up to that athlete to have to enforce it, and that's a pretty tough way in life to go after somebody for that money. So how complicated that gets so complicated.
Yeah, and I think that's a piece of it that I'm not entirely comfortable with, but nobody really has a solution for, right?
I don't know if anyone's really comfortable with it.
Yeah, my fear is what's going to happen is opportunities are going to get taken away from student athletes in the Olympic type sports who are the most representative student athletes.
Right. They are the core of it.
Yeah. But there's not going to be enough to feed that. So that surprised me. And it didn't happen immediately. Like even at Carolina, when I got there, we were raising money, but it wasn't what it is now. Right.
Yeah. You have to feed the beast, the facilities, just the operating budget. The whole thing is reliant on getting money into the system.
And it's continuous. It never stops either.
No.
It's not like, we've built this facility. It's like, nope, this one needs to be better. We need to do more of this. We need to do more of that. It never stops. It's a continuous thing.
I always tell people ask me how I felt about my time in the pros, and I'm really passionate about college athletics, and I was amazingly blessed to have the career I was able to have. The one thing I think about with the pros that I really liked, though, is you had one team, one coach, one owner, and Jen and more, you guys will really appreciate this. And you could exert control over everybody who was part of your brand, from the parking lot attendant to the usher to the gatekeeper. So many of our places on college campuses, we may pay the police and we may pay the ushers and we may pay the gatekeepers, but they don't feel like from a customer service standpoint, they report to us.
Right.
So I miss that. In the pros, they really have that locked down. And if it's somebody that's touching their customer, they're going to be on it.
Yeah, that is nice.
Well, Chris,
that's nice.
It is nice. Well, Chris, it is always good to see you. How's your running doing? You're still out there running, or
any more marathons?
I'll share this with you guys. You guys will crack up. So I had surgery on my foot in October. It's it's the first surgery I've agreed to. I've had 18 recommendations. It's the first one I've said yes to. So I have a screw in my foot. The doctor, who's great, he was my basketball team doctor, told me that he thought my running days were over.
Oh, that was just a challenge.
That's the end.
That was not a recommendation. That was a challenge.
And I told him what I think is over is you being my doctor. And so
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised that that's
not surprised at all.
So I'm going to start running again next week. I told myself I had to get some weight off to minimize the risk. So I've dropped about 20 pounds in the last 2 months, and I'm going to start next week.
There you go.
And I'll be sending him frequent updates of my status.
Well,
he's gonna
take
love
it
that.
slowly. Don't overexert yourself here, because we know what that'll do. But thank you for your time. We do appreciate you joining us.
Awesome.
And this was awesome.
So great.
Seeing you again and being a part of this. So
I know.
No, I love visiting with you guys. I'm excited about what you guys are doing. And needless to say, if there's anything I can do to help you as you continue down the path, I'm always one call away.
Well, thank you, sir.
Chris. This was so great. Good to see you.
Well,
Take
everybody
care,
out there, thank you, Chris, and everybody out there, thank you for joining us this week. Hopefully we will see you next week for our next episode.
Bye.
If you like the 5 Tips and Tricks podcast, make sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. You can rate and review us, including questions that may be answered on future episodes. The 5 Tips and Tricks podcast for careers in athletics is part of Athletic Career Consulting. Check us out at www.athcareer.com. Don't forget to follow and like us on your top social media platforms.